Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're all here. For me, the Biennale is an extraordinary chance to build, in a way, on what you just saw. The clue for me in what we're going to be talking about today was in that photograph session. As a British man, being photographed in Korea is the most fun photographs in the world. I never hold hands with men normally. And we don't do fighting. And we do the heart and all of this. Like, even just being photographed, there is amazing joy. And I remember back 25 years ago, in London, there was an architectural organization that was having a private conversation, wondering about, and the subject was architecture exhibitions. And the head of that organization said, "We have a problem. The public don't find exhibitions about architecture interesting." And it was very powerful. They said that the problem was that architecture is a very difficult thing to communicate, and the public don't really enjoy looking at drawings and renders and complicated writing. And it hit me that in the construction industry, we had a challenge, that we were not good at communicating, and there was an atmosphere of always very serious. We took ourselves incredibly seriously, and that seriousness was not engaging for people. Do I have a button, by the way? So today I'm so excited that the mix here is unbelievable. I think this is one of the most unique mixes for an event, because we have scientists, we have academics, we have property developers, we have architects, we have creatives, we have citizens of the city, all here to talk about that boring-seeming thing, which was the world around us. How can that be boring? So, with my own studio in the last 30 years, we've been working on projects all over the world, and that has led to some realizations, one of which was that our own projects by themselves doesn't change the world around us. How do you have the bigger conversation that will change things? And my admission to you is that I'm actually a partial introvert. And so I was worrying about having to stand here and talk to everybody. So I thought that maybe if I had extroverted clothing, it could do some of the messaging for you. And maybe if I forget some of my words, I may start reading. But I promise you, it was not my decision to write "more joy near my crotch." So this Biennale, even now, before we've even had this conference, by the way, a conference sounds a very boring thing about architecture. So I think we're looking for all of you to come together and make this an incredible gathering that makes real change. And it all comes from the simple observation that increasingly the world around us has been becoming more and more similar, more characterless, more sterile. Every city you go to, the new bits are more and more like the new bits of every city. I believe we've had an epidemic of boringness, and we've all felt quite powerless. Even quite powerful people feel powerless. And so it has just kept happening and kept happening. So today isn't about opera houses, it isn't about art museums. This is about everyday buildings. And actually, this is about the outsides of buildings. And outside of buildings, our industry is a bit uncomfortable talking about that because they feel, this is vanity. No, I'm serious and this is all about functionality. But often we forget that the emotion is a function. But also, I feel that we have neglected the skins of buildings because in relative proportion, there are many, many, many times more people outside buildings than there are inside. But the people who pay the fees of designers and architects and creative people, their worry is most about the inside. But actually, we need the citizens to demand that the outsides are as good as the insides and as generous and joyful and good for society. And I'm excited about this happening in Seoul for a few reasons. But first of all, that reason is because you are experts at skin. This is the epicenter of skin science. So why can't this be the epicenter of building skin science? You're mad about skin, and yet it's led by science as well. So there's a strange word, and that word, I've been teased by your mayor about this word, and it's a weird word. I'm not talking about beauty. I'm just talking about how do we make things engaging. And so the word boring came up as a simple word that actually so many people agree that places, we might disagree on which is more beautiful or less beautiful, but actually we've had this crisis of boringness at scale. So what is boring? Well, in the way we've been looking at it, and the different researchers are looking at it, we've found that there are common ingredients to boring places. They tend to be more flat, more shiny, more plain, more anonymous, more monotonous, and too serious. So how do we change that? And the reason this is so serious, and a friend of the studio wrote this book called The Lonely Century. And that title of that book breaks my heart when you think about what that means. Because the incredible technologies, those technologies that South Korea has been leading in the world, alongside the US and a number of other countries, the technologies that we're all so excited that we can not need to go outdoors to go to the shops. You can stay at home and do all your shopping. You can stay at home and watch things. You can stay at home and work. You can stay at home and study. Great. But what that's actually meant is that the internet that we thought was going to be the great democratizer that would make us see each other and understand each other better, actually, those algorithms have divided us and made people more lonely, made people more horrible to each other. And so suddenly, actually, in this world of the hyper-digital, the hyper-physical matters more than ever. Who would have thought that in the time of digital, physical matters so much? And this is borne out by the research that's coming through about public life. This is my friend who is the director of the Venice Biennale at the moment, and he's been writing about how we're spending less time outdoors together. We're more scared of each other. We're more on our devices, even when we're outdoors. This is dangerous for our cohesion. The mayor was talking about artificial intelligence. This physical proximity, our emotion, our love, our engagingness, togetherness, it depends on physically being together. That's what AI doesn't do. And this is your word. This is the incredible achievement, the economic miracle of South Korea has been driven by this ability to make it happen. which is your strength. And it's made so many amazing things happen in the last decades. But when it came to our buildings, the buildings that surround us everywhere, that focus on spatial efficiency, on cost minimization, has been too good. Because it was also forgetting that actually real success is, does society care? And all over the world, we've been making buildings where people just don't really care. In the UK, when you don't care, you say meh. There's this meh. And we've had meh architecture happening a lot. But the seriousness here is, at the moment, many people might be thinking, well, this is a conversation about nice and beauty and making things nice, and come on, we're in the real practical world. Well, in the real practical world, surprisingly, care does lead to real implications. And we have a dirty secret in our industry. And that dirty secret is the demolition. We demolish, in the US, 1 billion square foot of buildings every year. And they tend to be the ones society doesn't care about, the boring ones. And then we rebuild them with no less interesting buildings. In the UK, we demolish 50,000 buildings every year. And the average age of a commercial building is 40 years. In Seoul, the average age of a residential building is only 28 years, which is shocking. If I was a Seoul residential building, I would have been killed 27 years ago. I still think I'm young. So this is a double-page spread from a book that the studio wrote called Humanize, which I think many of you will have already. And this is just showing the gravity, the darkness of this dirty secret. Because in society, we do talk about greenhouse gas emissions, and we do talk about the aviation industry. Now, I've got a copy of this book, and in this is the double page from this book. And in it, it's showing the amount of greenhouse gas that's created when you make a Big Mac. So when you make a Big Mac, it's 4 kilos of carbon. When we put a rocket into space, it's 250 tons of carbon. Now, in our industry, so this is the amount of carbon that a British skyscraper takes, which has an expected life of only 40 years. And that is 92,000, not 250 tons, 92,000 tons. That's the equivalent of 23 million Big Macs. And we talk about the aviation industry, we talk about that. We don't talk about the construction industry, because the aviation industry is something that we feel we have some control over. But we have no control over the construction industry. We don't talk about it. We don't discuss it. No children in school know about this. So just to give perspective, this book was adapted by someone who came to a talk in London to help me explain. Now, I didn't know. He just gave this to me at the end of the talk. Someone called Jude Pullen. And this diagram, I didn't have enough space to fit how much carbon it took to make a British skyscraper, because it was going to the end of the page plus 10 meters. But he made a very creative way to show. So I wonder if I could ask the mayor, if you don't mind, Meo, to be my beautiful assistant and to just show you. So he did something which is to help people understand how much carbon. So you walk that way, please. He's not very obedient, is he? Could you walk in this? Oh, yeah, very good. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. So this is how much carbon it takes to build a British tower with an average life of 40 years. And I think you all know that a tower in Seoul probably has a shorter life than 40 years. That's how much carbon. Thank you. Could everyone give the mayor another clap for me? Thank you, thank you, thank you. So even if you don't care how things look, you don't care about beauty, you don't care about joy, you don't care about people coming together, I think you probably do care about the environment and the world we're living in together. But there is another dimension to this, and that this is maybe a strange way to describe this. Harmful boring, which sounds like a funny combination of words. But boring isn't just an absence of joy. What the research is showing, and I'm so thrilled that we've got some of the world's top researchers here who've been looking at brains and buildings, and you will hear from them in this conference. But when we look at how our brains respond, and we've been in a funny industry which for some reason has not taken seriously enough the impact on passers-by and science around. And so when we look, for example, this is one researcher who's been looking at buildings in Toronto, in New York, in London, and also in Seoul. Here in New York, this was a study looking at putting groups of people in front of relatively plain, flat, anonymous, monotonous, shiny, serious buildings, and then in front of the same group, in front of relatively less plain, less monotonous, less anonymous, less serious, but not asking their opinion, because we assume that, well, opinions are shaped by society and culture, but instead putting skin conductance sensors to see what the body is doing. And the astonishing thing was to see that the stress hormone of cortisol spiked when in front of the buildings with an absence of visual complexity. So it wasn't just an absence of interestingness. This, when you took that away, we discovered our brains need visual complexity. And that was a powerful finding. And just to talk about conditioning, 4-month-old babies, no one has had a chance to brainwash them yet, condition them in society. So I'll just do that again because it's too good. There are researchers who have been looking at what do babies look at when given different buildings to look at. So this is using eye tracking software. So this is what the babies were looking at. We put boring building in front of them and a building with some more engaging detail. And there was just no question. The baby, again and again, was always going to the levels of interest and fascination and more visual complexity. And this was borne out also in research with adults by other researchers in other countries. So look how striking it is. The relatively more repetitive, anonymous, flat, less visually complex details, people's eyes are drawn automatically and much more engaged by buildings with some fascination. So really, our job is how do we create in our industry places that are more public, that are more generous, have more ornaments, more detail, more stories, more humor, and more nature. And that was the reason why 2 years ago, a team set up the Humanize campaign, which is a campaign to try to really see how this bigger public conversation and the research that's been happening can be brought together to supercharge the construction industry. And the key part of that is that so many industries get stuck in echo chambers. And that's why I was so excited by the mix of people coming today, and why I was so excited by the Biennale being in the heart of Seoul, visible for everyone, free for everyone. If you're a dentist, I'm sure there's a dentist Biennale, and the art Biennale talks to the art people, and the technology people talk to the technology people. And when I arrived at the airport last week, I was speaking to my friend in the queue, and he was here. I said, "Why have you come to Seoul?" He said, "I'm here for the blockchain Biennale." So it's like all these echo chambers, and it became clear we have to break through these echo chambers. And I want to give some confidence, really, because that might feel unachievable. But actually, when we look at the climate, 30 years ago, people were not talking much about it. 10-year-old children were not thinking and talking with their parents and their teachers about the climate crisis. But it became a national conversation. It became a big conversation to the point now where it's a thing we all know. And it really facilitates leaders to make better decisions because they're empowered by public conversation. And that's what really inspired us with this Biennale, is to create the biggest public conversation. And many of you will have heard me say this last night. I believe that here in Seoul, in South Korea, this is the place that could show the world how to do it. Because actually, I wouldn't have been asked to be general director if this wasn't already in the direction of the things you're doing. You have a city architect. No other city that I know of has a city architect. You heard the mayor really talking about how we make things for everybody, not just for unique industries. So Korea is a global powerhouse in pop music. It's a powerhouse in beauty. It's a powerhouse in drama. It's a powerhouse in food. Why is it not the powerhouse in architecture? The talent is all here, but it's like pally-pally's like holding it down. Whoops. I'm getting too enthusiastic now. I'm falling apart. So how do we let the talent that's here everywhere, not just architects, all the people who could be involved to create more joy, fascination? We had an industry that involved many people whenever one building was made. It wasn't just made by one person. And you could lead that in a way that we've not seen the confidence in any other city. So this Biennale here, it's got 6 main parts. It's the only publicly funded architecture Biennale in the world. And that says so much about what matters. And I don't think the blockchain Biennale or the dentistry Biennale are so publicly funded as this. And so it's really about how can we make cities radically more human, because we've had a crisis. And to me, this conference is the chance to really get into that and find and make breakthroughs of how we can move things forward. So we made very deliberately almost like a fishing lure so that every 14-year-old in Seoul would look and go, what? So the humanized wall has been created. Many of you will have seen it. But this is, in a way, like a gigantic magazine that's deliberately an extraordinary shape so people's eyeballs will look and we can begin to get them excited and involved in a way that conversation 25 years ago in the UK about why do architecture exhibitions not connect with people? This is a big attempt to connect and invite. It's a big invitation. And one half of it has the research of the scientists and academics, but also the simple logics of ways we can look at buildings. And then the other side is the response, with hundreds and hundreds of examples from hundreds of teams, including hundreds of local Seoul citizens who have looked and thought and given rather extraordinary proposals and solutions, many of which are doable. So there's these two sides, and in a way this is like our bibimbap wall. It's like mixing together, which South Korea knows how to mix. And this is an extraordinary structure. I didn't actually believe it. I didn't believe it would get finished, because it became a major thing, and this is where Pali Pali's good. There was very complex geometry, and it's a jigsaw puzzle of 1,482 different pieces all coming together, like a giant jogakbo of many different articles and stories, so that they're all stitched together in a structure that makes a gateway to invite everybody in, but also makes a piece of shelter to frame citizens' conversations and give you shade as well as rain protection. And last night, talking of joyful and entertaining, I was shocked. That's the most entertaining architectural launch event ever in my life. It was incredible. And so today, all of the stage will have been taken away, and the public are really invited in. But this really is a manifesto for change, and this is a biennale not about talking to ourselves and having a lovely time, but how we can make something that can really ripple out and create the bigger public conversation. And I reflected on the one architecture exhibition that I went to when I was 13 in the United Kingdom, which was in a new city called Milton Keynes. And it was an exhibition called Houses of the Future. And I went with my dad, and like yesterday, it was very muddy, and we were sort of walking around. But there were no drawings, there were no models. They just built 13 houses. And there was nothing more powerful. And as a 13-year-old, I could understand it as well as my father or all the other citizens who were coming around. So this inspired, in a way, one of the next main pieces of meat of this Biennale, which are the walls of public life. And that name is there deliberately because it feels like we have not created meaningful enough walls of public life for ourselves in society. And so 24 creative teams that have ranged from jewelers, architects, artists, also tailors and chefs, world-famous chefs, have all engaged with thinking about emotion, not just pure logic. And every single one of these deal with issues to do with housing and how we can give something that those 4-month-old babies would look and prefer. And even including in traditional, indigenous ways of how we can humanize buildings. And these craftswomen from Burkina Faso have come and created live for people to see ways that give clues of how we could make new buildings with new technology that are affordable. Pali Pali can do this, where super graphics can be built in, and challenging the way we can live with the buildings that are around us. And I must say, I very deliberately have this particular man in all the photographs. It was his birthday yesterday, so I thought I'd try to embarrass him as much as possible by including him in every one of these pictures. But I hope you are all going to come and see these. But our goal is that we need the property developers of Seoul to come here, and these are pieces of future potential buildings. And we need property developers to go around and then say, why not commission this team to do the rest of this building, or this team, or this team, or this team? So I hope you will enjoy it. This came from remembering there's nothing like real to engage a 13-year-old or a 99-year-old and not get stuck in professionalized jargon. So everybody, I hope that you will come and sort of take seriously these full-size experiments, most of which could become real buildings. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be taking these amazing, sensitive things that show that this is not about taste. This is not a biennale about making buildings more organic or more square or more curved or more old-fashioned. This is about our brain's need for things that are engaging and the fact that everyone thinks they are special and everyone is smart. Every citizen is smart. And we've been making places that forgot how smart people are and how they can feel when things are joyless and cynical. So this biennale, underneath it all, is about kind of joyful shouting and creating the biggest conversation. And if every one of you goes and speaks to 20 different people who wouldn't normally think that architecture biennale, what? That sounds boring, I don't know. Talk to people, we could make massive change. And after last night, I actually feel we're on an unstoppable movement forwards now to really being able to make far more joyful cities. And I think Seoul is potentially the world's first truly humanized city. So please all come on the journey, throw your ideas in. We don't have all the answers. It's about us all together being able to find the true leadership through tuning in to feelings, not just pali-pali. Thank you, everybody.